Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is so good to see you all again. I feel like it's been centuries since I've seen all of you. It hasn't been centuries. It's only been a couple of weeks, but welcome to Nom Watch Review. My name is Jordyn Orozco, and you're watching Nom Watch Review, part of Nom Talk Network. On this show, we review the latest film drop or throwback, celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie and snacks, and all of the above. So I'm your host, as I said, Jordyn Orozco, and right now I'm enjoying a lovely little strawberry margarita truly because I need something sweet to wash down all of this. And it is so good to see all of you, and thank you all for joining us. I want to introduce my guests, though, who I have never met, but I'm so glad are here because it seems like they're huge Bob's Burgers fan. I'm a huge Bob's Burgers fan from like day one. And I'm so happy to have them here. I want to introduce Jeromy and Stephanie. It's so good to see you both. I know we have our little Bob's Burgers backgrounds and all that stuff. Let's start with Stephanie. How are you? What are you doing? What are you drinking? What are you eating?
Hi, so I'm Stephanie. Right now I am drinking Dr. Pepper, my favorite drink, and then also some peanut butter M&Ms. So that's what I'm eating, drinking tonight. So
I love that. I secretly love that. Like minimalist, but I love it. Freaking love it. Great to have you. Great to have you. Good to see you. Jeromy, what are you having tonight? What's going on?
So tonight I'm doing similar to Stephanie, very movie themed. I got some popcorn. And I have a vodka Red Bull with watermelon Red Bull, which is my favorite Red Bull.
I love it. It's like Red Bull, but like with a twist.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best flavors.
Freaking love it.
That's what I'm eating tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like liquid lunch or liquid dinner and popcorn. We all love it. So in case you haven't known, I don't know if any of you know, I don't know if my guests know, but we're talking about Bob's Burgers, the movie, which was years in the making. It was absolutely fantastic. There's been how many seasons of Bob's Burgers out now? There's been like 8 or 9.
We just got approved for the 12th.
12 seasons now.
That's insane. Like I remember the first episode of like season 1 of Bob's Burgers, and like the reason why I like this franchise and the reason why I like this sort of animation that was like after Simpsons, after Family Guy, all this stuff, right? Is it's clean family fun, but it's still like a little suggestive, right? Which I love about it, which I feel like the voiceovers and the actors, which we'll get into later, have put life and breath into this like franchise, and they just made it amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And the fact that they just have so much diversity within this entire like series is just beautiful. And the fact that they tried to encapsulate that within this film is absolutely amazing. So the reason why I was like a little late I was like, shoot, I'm gonna be a little late, Steph, was because I saw this before, like today, right when I got off work, and I was like, I gotta see this. All right, fine, here we go. And then I saw it, and I feel like I need to see it a second time just to appreciate it. But I feel like overall, for me, my first experience with Bob's Burgers, I think was, I was talking to a friend, and it may have been before quarantine, like a couple years before quarantine, when I was like, oh yeah, I watch Family Guy, but I don't really like it and all that stuff. And then my friend was like, you might like Bob's Burgers. They're like, I feel like you're the kind of like person that would like it. And I was like, I don't know, And so I saw an episode, and it was from season 4. Like that's how late I was to the game, and I fell in love with it. I fell absolutely in love with it. And then I had Hulu, and I watched the entire like season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4, and then I have just kept up with it up until then. And I don't think there has ever been a season that has disappointed me. I feel like there hasn't been a joke or some kind of comedy in that film or in the series where I've been like, that sucks, right? Like I feel like so that was my introduction to Bob's Burgers, right? Jeromy, let's start with you. What was your introduction to Bob's Burgers? How did you get into this? How did you get the love for this series?
So I'm a giant animation nerd. I'm super into voice acting, super into animation. It's one of my passions and loves. And then when Bob's Burgers came out, there was, like you said, there was like Family Guy, there was, American Dad, and those had kind of died off for me, and I wasn't really feeling it. And I didn't initially like the animation for Bob's Burgers, and then I found out it was done by like Brendan Smalls, who had done home movies, and I was like, well, I really loved home movies, and I like H. John Benjamin. I'm gonna give it a shot, and I think this was like maybe season 2 was starting when I did this, and then I was like, okay, I'm in. I love the characters, I love the voices, I love how ridiculous they are, and like the animation wasn't my favorite at the beginning, but it really, really grew on me. And I think the animation is like I wouldn't change it at all today.
Yeah, it started out kind of choppy. Like it started out very like simplistic, like almost like pencil, and then like they didn't really work. And then as it progressed, I think after like I want to say like season 1 or season 2, like the animation just got better. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, and it added to it, right? Where it was like there were some funny episodes in season 1, but the thing about this series is that it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier. And there hasn't been there hasn't been a season where I've been like, oh, that was just terrible, right? Like it's almost like the animated version of Schitt's Creek, right? Where like you're watching it and it's like it just gets funnier every season, and the cinematography and the acting just gets better and better and better. And then this hasn't ended, but then it like ends, and then you're like, oh, right. Stephanie, what was your introduction to Bob's Burgers? How did you get into this?
So I initially got into it maybe, let's say like 6 or 7 years ago. Like my sister and her husband, they were watching it, and then like when it used to be on Netflix, like, oh, let me watch it on Netflix. I got instantly hooked. So I think they had up to like season 7 or 6 or 7 on Netflix. So that's how I first initially got into Bob's Burgers. So I just really like how we compare it to Family Guy, because it's a very like the family is very quirky, but they all support each other. Like they support like who they are. They don't like belittle them or anything like that. Like they all have these weird quirks and stuff. So
Yeah,
You're all terrible, but I love you.
yeah.
that's basically what it is, right?
That's the show.
Without cussing and calling people like names, right? Which is what Family Guy does. But like, it's great. It's like I could watch this with my nieces and be fine, who they're like super young, right? And like be like, this is what a family kind of should be when situations arise, and do all that stuff. They're still dysfunctional, but we kind of love it, right? Just want to shout out to some of the people that are on our Twitch. The Fat Jedi Knight said it was everything I'd hoped for. And then Cue Ball 197740 says, Jerome TV, what's up? The Fat Jedi Knight says, Bob's Burgers was the thing to keep me going during quarantine. Absolutely. Bob's Burgers was the thing that I would watch when I was like, we're all gonna die, right? Like, this is what's gonna happen, and this is what. So let's focus on the movie, which is what we're here to talk about, right? In case any of you all don't know, basically like as Jeromy said, H. John Benjamin plays Bob Belcher, who's clearly the main character, along with Linda, who's voiced by John Roberts, which, by the way, Linda and Tina are voiced by males, which I think are absolutely freaking amazing. I didn't know that until I was like 3 episodes in, and I was like, this doesn't sound right. And that's like, oh, they're men. Like, but it fits. Like, it fits perfectly. Dan Mintz as Tina. Eugene Merman plays Gene Belcher, also plays Birdman. And then you have Kristen Shaw, who plays Louise, who's absolutely amazing. I love Kristen Shaw. And then you have Larry Murphy, who does Teddy. David Herman, who does Mr. Frond, who's the guidance counselor. Jenny Slate, who I'm in love with, which, by the way, quick plug, they're coming out with the Marcel the Shell movie in June, and I'm gonna see that. And Steph, we better do a review of it because I met Jenny Slate, and she's a doll. I freaking love her. But anyway, so Jenny Slate's in it. All these just wonderful and amazing people. This like slew of cast members that do voiceovers. Which if you've never seen a live voiceover of Bob's Burgers, you need to watch it on YouTube. It is the most hilarious thing because they get in their character, but they're real life people, and it's the funniest thing to watch.
I think that was the moment I realized that Tina and Linda were men. Was I was watching a video and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, I was a little ashamed. I was like, I'm into voice acting. I do voice. I should know this. And I was like, they did such a good job, and it was so like believable and fun. That yeah, they're so great. And watching those reads are amazing because they work so well together.
Yeah, and like if you ever like, I remember, I don't know if they were touring or if they did like cons like a lot, but they would do reads at those, and I just remember like wanting to go and like wanting to do that. How did we feel about the voiceover? How did we feel about the acting in this? Let's start with Stephanie first. How did you feel like this compared to like the series? Did you feel like this represented it? How did we feel about that?
I think it like actors did a really good job voicing the characters for the movie. I think especially too with like with the songs, like they were just all like it was there's like because like before the movies would come out like in 2020, then like everything happened and they give them more time. I feel like they all the voice actors polished up like with singing, and then they really like it worked, and I just I think they did a really good job doing like all the voice acting and stuff. So
yeah. Absolutely. And Jeromy, what do we think?
So I again, this is something I'm very critical of. I'm hosting 2 voice acting panels this weekend. That's just to give you an idea how like into it I am. I thought everybody did a really good job, and like Stephanie said with the singing, that was great. And we're allowed to talk a little bit of spoilers, right? We can touch on some spoilers.
Yeah. By the way, spoilers are abound. Winter is coming. Winter's here. If you're watching this, you should have already seen it. Too bad, so sad. Yes, Jeromy.
I'll try to keep it light, but the cousin, when he did his song,
yeah,
he did an especially bad job singing. And I think as a performer, like, and especially if you've done like theater and musical theater, it's harder to do a believably bad version of a song than it is to do a good version, because you have to intentionally be bad at it. So I wanted to give credit there, because that was a standout moment to me. It was like, oh my god, he's so bad, and I was like, oh, he's doing it bad on purpose, like he's supposed to be bad at this. Everybody else sang really well, but yeah, that was good, and the singing was good. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the show cast come back, because we did get a lot of voice actors who, and it's great, fresh blood, more characters to build off of. I would have liked to have seen some of the more fun characters kind of show up and do their voices. But yeah, I think everybody did a really good job, and I think the singing was fun and challenging, and hats off to the person who played the cousin, because I thought that was a really great, like, bad song.
Yeah, who wasn't it?
He was David Wayne.
Yeah,
he did the voice.
Who was that? Zach Galifianakis did a thing in this.
He was the brother. He was
right.
The fish owner, his brother. Yeah,
he's Calvin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the credits and all that stuff. But yeah, I honestly I do agree with you, Jeromy. The one of the things that was a miss for me, which is why, by the way, sorry, Steph, our producer, I probably should have done this in the beginning. We're gonna so we need to give this film a rating.
Oh yeah.
And today on this episode, we're gonna do it by burgers, ladies and gentlemen, by burgers. And yes, Stephanie did halvesies this time. So congratulations to Stephanie, our producer. We love you. Let's start with Jeromy. What would we, out of a 0 to 5 burgers, what would we rate them?
So I'm rating it a 3.5
Yeah.
out of 5 burgers.
Okay.
Because my logic here is, oh, there it is, my little half burger. I couldn't finish it. Sad. Wasting burgers. I felt like the movie was good. It's everything I wanted, and I love Bob's Burgers. So I went with the intention of supporting Bob's Burgers. And that was my intention for seeing the film. But there were so many things that I felt like we leaned into payoff and we didn't pay off. Like stuff that we wanted from the TV show that they've been teasing a little bit. And maybe I'll go into that a little bit later, but like there were things that we needed payoff on that we didn't get payoff on, and we got payoff on one thing, which was the Tina story arc. We got good payoff. And I was so disappointed when they did Luis's payoff, but they didn't show it.
Yeah.
I was like, I was right there and ready for it. And I felt like Jean's payoff was a little unflattering. And I felt like, so Jean has an imaginary friend in the show that they've never shown. And and they reference him in the audience during his dream. And I was like, even in his dream, we can't see him.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that the payoff for him at the end was we were going to see his friend. But I felt like everybody's payoff needed just a little bit more. Like they built up the Luis's hat story, and they showed Bob's mom, which was great, but it felt like it needed more. It needed more payoff. It needed more of a like, oh, aren't you glad you came to see this in theaters? And it felt like a really long episode of Bob's Burgers, which I love, but I also felt like it could have just been a really long episodes of Bob's Burgers.
Right. And I kind of felt the same way. Like I was watching it and I was like, oh, this is funny. And then I was like, cool. And then I was like, like there's no, while there was some settlement on some stories, I was like, okay, cool, there's more, right? Like there's more that should definitely be said. And before we get to you, Stephanie, I'm gonna read some comments from the Twitch.
You also have to give your burger number.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like after the comments.
Oh, okay.
I'll do Stephanie first, then I'll do mine.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, so the comments here, cue ball, Bob's Burgers is good, but the humor kind of is confusing to me sometimes, but it's a good show. Fair point. Kitty Sarah says, hi, Kitty Sarah. Cue ball says, but I can say about Bob's Burgers is that I agree with Jordyn on is the perfect alternative to Family Guy and American Dad. I agree. I lost my interest in both those shows, which is why I probably turned to Bob's Burgers. The Fat Jedi Knight says, I cosplayed Beef Squatch at the movie this weekend. Thank you for doing that. I'm so happy somebody did it. I love Beef Squatch. Beef Squatch is amazing. Stephanie, what would we rate this? 0 out of 5 burgers.
Okay, I'm like a super fan, so yes. I give it a 5 out of 5. But I do agree with Jeromy with the whole Luis thing. I was waiting for that too, and they didn't show it. I was like, oh, that's it. They even teased it at the panel, like, oh, you're gonna see Luis had her ears on, and we didn't see her ear, we didn't see her hair. I'm like, so, but I still give it 5 out of 5. It was like it felt like there's a longer episode, but there's just a lot more like elements to it. It felt a little darker too, especially the scene with Louise finding the skeleton.
Oh yeah,
like the teeth go in her mouth. Like it's like I went to the CD on Sunday, and it was pretty full audience to hear the reaction to it. It was just like, oh my gosh, like she tasted death. So
yeah, that was the same. Our audience, as soon as that scene happened, you heard people go, "Ugh, ugh, ugh."
Yeah.
And I was like eating popcorn. I was like,
yeah. So, but it was a really fun film to watch, and it's just it's like the cartoon, the animation is just it's just a joy to like see, and like they're very like diverse and inclusive. So like they had like every type and everything like in the movie. So
Sure.
I give it 5 out of 5. Five out of 5 burgers. So.
Yes, I will eat all those burgers. Yeah, I will give it a 4 out of 5. I think that's a good medium between your 3.5 and your 5 because so I love Bob's Burgers. It's beautiful. It's amazing. But I think Jeromy hit the nail on the head when I was like, even in like the end scene, like in the credits, there were characters we didn't see in the entire movie, and I was like, oh my god, I would have loved to see Bubbles, right? Like I would have loved to have seen like Mort a little more. Like I would have loved to have
regular
seen
size Rudy.
yeah, like
Sorry, he's my
Rudy.
favorite character.
Yeah.
Or Gail.
He's so funny. And I went with my best friend who has never seen Bob's Burgers in her life. Like, and she was just like, oh, it's like $5 Tuesday at like Look, right? Like, which is great because it's like a full service cinema, you know, like drinks and food and all that stuff. And we went and she goes, it was a really cute movie. Like, I didn't need to see the series to understand like what was going on. She's like, I feel like I got a full breadth of like the main characters. And then she was like, but when you were like watching the credits, you were like, why wasn't they in there? Why weren't they in there? Right. And I feel like there could have been so many people that were there in the earlier seasons that they could have introduced into the movie that would have even just been like a fraction of like 2 seconds of like, oh, look, it's them. Great. Like we've been satisfied. Right. So I feel like there was a lot of them that we could have probably seen that they didn't like introduce. The other thing too was you're right. I feel like it was too long of a Bob's Burgers episode and not necessarily a movie, right? Like it was the same premise and it was the same mystery, but it wasn't any different from like the Halloween episode or like an episode where they have to find like, oh, like who done it, right? And so I feel like while it was fine that I was like sitting there for an hour and like 15 minutes, right? Like I do feel like it could have been condensed to like maybe an hour, right? Like where it was like, okay, cool, like that's an episode. And then they could have probably maybe melded that into another, you know, thing that happened. And so like I'm really disappointed they didn't like Jimmy Pesto didn't come over, or like his place didn't freaking like get used more.
Well,
right?
you know
like,
why Jimmy Pesto wasn't there, right?
No, please tell me what.
So, and this is part of my background here.
Oh shit!
The actor for Jimmy Pesto, this background is celebrating his arrest. The actor for Jimmy Pesto was arrested, so he's not doing any voice lines in the current season and was not in the film. And I say celebrating because he was arrested for storming the Capitol on January 6th.
Oh my god!
Fun little side note.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Jimmy Pesto. Wait, I hope I could say that. I didn't ask if I could cuss.
Well, yes, you can.
Yeah,
I'm being super conservative. I cuss a lot when I host, so you're welcome. But
yeah. So
yeah,
this
like,
is something somebody made on Reddit. Restaurant space available for
oh my
lease.
god, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's they showed Jimmy Pesto in a scene, but he's not going to do any voices.
Yeah,
because they haven't recast him. And they're still figuring out what they're doing, I think.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
It's not the most difficult voice, so I mean, a lot of people could do Jimmy Pesto.
Yeah, but like I was just, there were some places and some people that were, I think, more pivotal. Like when they went to the the Carney place. What was it called?
The Wharf.
No,
Wonder Wharf.
No, where all the Carneys live.
Oh, Carneyville.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And I didn't get it till they got there. They're like, we're at Carneyville. And I was like,
Carneyville, yeah.
Yeah. Where like
Carneopolis.
Yeah.
Where like there were some characters and they even introduced like the biker gang that like Luis befriended and like all that stuff just for like a little bit. And I was like, yes, like this is what I want to see. This is exactly what, you know, this movie entailed. And this is exactly, you know, as a fan and somebody that may have not been able to see this, like this is what I wanted to see, right? Let's talk about the story first of all. So if you all haven't seen it, too bad, so sad, we're going to tell you the story. So basically it ends up being that Bob owes the bank money and they owe it a lot of money. And basically they don't have the money. And so they're like, okay, well, we can make up the money by selling burgers. We'll like keep it open. And the guy's like, you have a week. And he's like, we can't like, so he goes for an extension and the guy says, no, you can't have an extension. You have a week. And he's like, we can't make that money in a week. And Linda's like, no, it's fine. Like, we're good. Like, we can do it. It's fine. And then a big old sinkhole opens up in front of Bob's Burgers. And they have no way of getting people into their restaurant because the sinkhole is blocking their entire restaurant, including their entrance. And so they put up signs that say, you can come in through the alley. It's fine. Like, it doesn't smell. You're good. And basically, Bob and Linda are trying to find ways to make up the money. And the kids and Louise ends up hearing that, you know, they're in a pickle. And so the kids try to find a way to end up making this money for the restaurant. And long story short, it ends up being this like kerfuffle of stuff that happens. And then they find out, like, as we've alluded earlier, that Louise falls in the hole and she finds out that there's a dead body, there's a skeleton down there, and they don't know who it is. And then they eventually find out who it is. And then there's this whole murder mystery that happens that the kids want to solve and, you know, end up solving in a weird way, just like Bob's Burgers happens. And so that's like the basic premise of the story. I feel like, yeah, like going back to our comments earlier, I feel like it could have been a shorter like thing. I feel like it could have been a shorter episode, right? Like, it could have been a Bob's Burgers episode, but I didn't feel bored at any moment in the movie. I didn't feel like I was like struggling to find my attention in it. And I feel like that was a really good part of, you know, the people that had done the screenplay and the people that had done the voiceover and all that stuff. I feel like that was really good. What did we feel about the story? Did we feel like it was good? Do we feel like it was too long, too short? Jeromy, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I thought the story was good, and there were like a lot of stories going on. There was the Belchers trying to pay the rent, and then Mr. Fischoeder getting arrested for the murder of the guy in the hole, and then the kids are trying to prove it wasn't Mr. Fischoeder so that he can approve them not paying rent so they can pay the loan. It's that bit was a little convoluted, but then there's each of the characters had their own story, which was Tina had her arc, which was about whether or not she wanted to ask Jimmy Pesto finally to be her boyfriend, but she was conflicted over that. And then Louise got called a baby because she was always wearing her pink ears, and she refused to do this flip thing that might make them fall off. And then Gene was trying to put on this rock show, and he was conflicted over whether music was actually his calling and things like that. So there were a lot of like fun little side stories that kind of were all happening around the same time. So I really appreciated that. And I think the overall story was good. I think there were fun little moments that they gave to each character that I really enjoyed, specifically the kids when they had their like dreams and fantasies or their writing. And like Gene is playing an instrument and aliens come down and they're like, hey, you suck, stop playing music. And he's like, do I suck? These aliens in my fantasy told me that I did. Or like Tina is riding on the beach with Jimmy Jr. and he's like telling her like, oh, you're having doubts about me. And she's like, shut up, I'm writing this story. And he's like, no, you're having doubts about me and they're sexy zombies. And then Louise talking to her stuffed animals, and the first thing one of them, she's like, what do we do? She called me a baby. And they were like, well, maybe you shouldn't be talking to your stuffed animals about this. So there was a lot of fun moments that they gave to each character out of the main cast that I think really appreciated, especially the kids. And I thought somebody said in the comments the Mr. Fischoeder family kind of stole the show way more than they normally do. I thought that whole fun side plot of them getting framed for murder and then planning to run away to Cuba was just like a fun little thing. That had a lot of good jokes in it and a lot of good moments. So I think overall the story was really good, really solid. well written, and like made you wanted to see what was going to happen next. Although I kind of caught the twist at the beginning ish because they introduced a character that I hadn't really seen before, and I was like, well, they're not gonna blame this character who's been in the show for 12 seasons. So there's little things like that. So there's little things where it could have been better as far as the story goes. And then again, I talked about at the beginning, there was a lot of build up for payoff that we didn't get. And you talked about like keeping your attention. It kept my attention, but there was definitely a moment where it's like, oh, I can walk to the bathroom now. Like I'm not going to miss anything that I can't figure out when I'm gone for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit that I felt like, again, just overall needed a little bit more to be a movie.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so I feel like you also hit a point that has been something that I've like convinced people to watch Bob's Burgers with, which is, for me, the kids make the show. And it's always the little quips that like, and it's mostly Jean who makes like the little like comments.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, if you miss that, you're not going to laugh. And like the people that like I either date or like I get with, I'm like, if you miss that, we're not like nothing's happening. Like, but if you get it, you're amazing. Because if you miss the little comments, oh my God. And Jean like pulled through in this movie for me. There were little things that like with my friend that was sitting there, she was like, oh ha ha. And then he would say something and I'd be like, bah, ha, like laughing in the movie. And she'd be like, what was so funny? And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I know what this says. You don't know what it says. But the kids, like Louise, Tina, like Jean, that like even in the episodes, if you miss what they're saying, you're going to think the episode is dull. But if you catch it, you're like, that's the most fucking hilarious thing I've ever fucking heard. Right? Like when Jean dressed up as Queen Latifah for Halloween, died. I died.
Like
I died. And it was just
he had a good moment with where Bob is talking to the burger, because he does that in the show. He talks to the burgers, and Luis is like, they're a cute couple, and Jean's just like, I give him a year. And I was just like, fuck, that's so funny. That is so funny. But like you said, it's quick and it's quick quip humor. Yes. Like it's quick, clever humor, and you've got to really be on it. And like you said, the kids make the show. The moment I knew I was in love with the show was an episode where Tina is like trying to take capoeira because the instructor is sexy. And she goes to leave the restaurant, and Luis is like, don't worry, Dad, I'll bring her back. And she goes to the door and she's like, don't you ever come back here, you're dead to us. And she comes back in and she's like, she's a lost cause. Like I did everything I could. I was like, I love these kids. So
I think you made a point. Stephanie, what do you how did you think about the story? How did you think it went? Do you think it flowed well?
When we mentioned like how many storylines are in that movie, I didn't realize, it's crazy to think that so many like intertwining stories to like fit in the like hour and a half movie. But I think generally the storyline flowed pretty well. Now I'm like thinking of Jean when they're looking at the hole, and then like bossing but the hole, like, and Jean's like, if I had a nickel, I'm like, oh my gosh. And boss all Jean, like. But
they refer to that hole so many times, like in so many ways.
It's like
murder hole.
What? Crime hole.
Crime hole. That's what it was. Crime hole.
But yeah, I forget like how many like there's like at least it like keeps your attention because they don't stay. Like I wish it would stay longer on like each storyline, but there's so many storylines you keep your attention span. But I think I really like what they did with Teddy for his story, like helping, because you always think like he loves that family so much that he would do like anything for them. He even made like for him to like make that like I maybe like Teddy more because he just like, and then when you watch like the TV show, like, you always see like a part of him, like little snippets like what like how he is. It's when you see him like making that burger truck burger little thing for them and like helping them out. Like you just show like he's a really integral part of the family, even though he's not like blood related, So
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like if like Teddy was just like even though he was like I don't say minor role, but even if he was like smaller, like it wouldn't have made the movie because he is such an integral part of that like restaurant and that family and like how he comes in and does all that stuff, right? Which like the two people that are in the restaurant all the time are Teddy and Mort, right? Like they're always Mort. Is that it, right? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Mort. They're always there, and it's because Mort's right next door, and like Teddy comes in like just all the time and eat it. And then the people like the store next door is always getting changed. And that's a reference you wouldn't know unless you've like seen the series, which like at the very end, it was like the grand reopening. And my friend was like, so my best friend was like, what's going on? And I was like, you have to know that the store that's constantly next to Bob's Burgers is changing all the time. It's not the same. And then the rodent truck that was at the beginning or like at the end where it was like it was like the Rat King or something like that. And I was just like, you only know that if you've seen the series, right? Like, you know, if it came about and you just like saw it, like it's always changing. So, so what were our expectations? I feel like for me, I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting like a continuation of like where Bob's Burgers picked up from like currently with like the seasons that have happened. I think I was expecting a little bit more, but I don't think I was disappointed. I don't think I was mad at like the movie. I don't think I came out being like, oh, like this is bad, right? Like it was more of like, oh, they could have done this better, but I actually enjoyed myself in the movie, so I don't think there weren't that many expectations. Stephanie, were there any for you? Like I don't, what was going on?
For me was seeing Louise out the hat. That's all. That's all I wanted. That's all like one of the things I wanted to see, and I feel like they were like teasing it that you're going to see her with her without her ears, and when they didn't do that, they did it, but not what the expectation was. I was like, you know, that's the one thing I wanted to see her without her ears, you know.
I feel like everybody reacted how we reacted, where it was like, oh my god, oh my god, and then it was just like, oh, let me put my hat on, and I was like,
oh,
right, like, right. And then the fact that Tina kissed Jimmy Pesto finally, I was like,
yes,
my heart, like my gold, my like black heart, like I love it. It was so great, and like I love that. Yeah,
and Jeromy. I like that he responded positively. That was
he did.
Yeah,
it was so like tear worthy. I was like, oh my god, they kissed, and my friend was like, okay, like we all saw that coming. I was like, no. You don't know. It's been 11 seasons of bullshit, and they haven't done it right. So, I was really glad they did that. What about you, Jeromy? Were there any expectations? Like, were you expecting anything to come out of it?
So, for me, I went in with kind of medium expectations, and I know that I gave it kind of a lower score, but like, I went in with expecting a Bob's Burgers movie. And that's kind of exactly what I got. And I planned the whole thing. I talked about this before we started, but like I just wanted to do a Bob's Burgers thing. So me and my partner actually went to the counter and we made our own Bob's burgers and we named them. And I had a Hawaiian burger with an egg on it, and I called it the You Make Me Moco Loco burger. Was the name of my burger, and her burger was a turkey burger with grilled mushrooms on top, and her burger was the turkey is a fun guy burger. So like I went into it expecting a Bob's Burgers experience, and I got that, and you definitely got a Bob's Burgers experience. So I didn't go in with super high expectations, but I wanted to support the show, and I always had any opportunity I could support animation. I want to. So yeah, I didn't have super high expectations, but there were things like Stephanie said, where it was like, oh, maybe we're gonna get something that they can only do in a movie, and we got that with the Jimmy Pesto kiss. But there were other things like yeah, you wanted like bigger, more explosions, crazy Bob's Burgers movie kind of thing. So I was hoping for that, like some big stuff that you would only see in a movie. And they did that with the musicals, I guess, a little bit, but there were still moments where it's like, oh, let's go bigger, let's go bigger. So I didn't go in with super high expectations. I just kind of knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. Let's talk about the musicals for a second, because I was not expecting that. I mean, I know that we've gotten a little bit of that, like in the series, like where like they've sort of like broken down into songs sometimes, but I was like, this isn't a musical, and there's already four like, you know, songs that I've gotten out of this, and I was like, oh, I don't know if it added or took out from it, but I feel like the movie could have done without them, and it would have been fine. But that's just me. Like, and I was like, oh, I don't know, but I know that like there's some episodes of Bob's Burgers that like it like mattered, and I was like, I love this. This is great. It added to it. I'm here for it. But like, I don't know about the movie. I was like, I feel like they're just kind of like giving in to like that sort of like animation musical genre. You know what I mean? Like to do all that and but like I said, it didn't pull away from it for me. But I feel like it could have done without it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely something they've tried to do throughout the series and incorporate on their specials. But it did feel a little heavy-handed. The only moment I think where I really appreciated that they did a musical scene was after the carnival scene where all the carnies are singing and Luis has her moment. They walk away and he's like, see, they're not cops. Cops don't dance like that. Cops dance like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so like you said, I feel like when the cousin sang, I feel like that was pivotal because you're like, oh, he's purposefully singing badly because this is what it is, right? And then when they went to Carnival, I feel like that was on purpose. But I feel like all the other things, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that was because they needed to add something else to it, right? But I also like how I also feel like in this movie they sort of showed a little bit of how each parent is related to each kid. So like, you know how Tina goes, huh, huh, huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lynn does that when they're getting buried in the clam car. And I don't know if you noticed that, but I was like, yes, like that's where Tina gets it from. And then Bob, a little bit like before, goes,
at the dinner. Yeah.
And I was like, that's where Tina gets it from, right?
Yeah.
And like the fact that like Bob and Linda are like constantly talking, they're like, well, you should do that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's where Gene gets it from. Because during the series, like you don't really see that. You just think that like it's like a weird quirk between like the kids and like that's who they are. But like in this one, I feel like in the movie it like showed like, oh, they're related. Like they're all related, right? Like, oh, that's where this person gets from. Oh, that's where this person gets from. So I do appreciate that part. Are there any things that we didn't talk about? Any last minute quips that you feel like that people should know about it? Let's start with Jeromy. What did you feel? Is there anything that you saw that maybe...
I would say if you haven't seen it yet or you're going to see it a second time, definitely listen for those, like you said, little moments. Because the writing is so good in that sense where they're so quick with the quips and they're really clever. And again, like overall, I enjoyed it. I knew exactly what I was getting into. I was hoping for a little bit more. Like when they showed Bob's mom and they talked about her pink hat, and it was like, you're the bravest person I know. You remind me of my mom. And I thought that was I was like, let's dive into that. Let's really get into it because there's an emotional story right there. And we don't really get to see, we see a lot of Bob's emotional side and softer side because he's that kind of character. But I was like, let's get into this talk about like this mom reveal that we just had with her pink hat and how, Luis wears a pink hat like hers. and they're both brave, and then Bob idolizes them. And so there's stuff like that where I was like, I just wanted more. I wanted so much more. I wanted the hat payoff. I wanted Gene to have a good moment, maybe with his friend finally showing up and him getting that support that he deserves, and kind of reinforcing what he loves. And then, yeah, I liked the way that they did the Tina one, and the payoff there was good. Uh, I just overall, I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted enough to be like, that was worth the price of admission.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I feel like there was a little oomph missing from this film. I feel like there was a little something was missing, and I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like for example, like me being a fan going in, I was like, cool, this is a great film. But there was something missing. But also my best friend who came, who's never seen an episode of Bob's Burgers in her life, was like, that was a really cute movie. And I got a sense of every character. I feel like that was the in-between. I feel like this was the in-between for this whole series and this whole franchise was this movie. So I can say as a fan, for sure I wanted more. But as somebody that was sitting next to somebody who's never seen it, who was kind of satisfied and was like, cool, like this was actually worth coming to see. I was like, cool, like maybe it kind of accomplished the goal, right? Like maybe it kind of did something for people that right? Like, and it's that like weird, what we've sort of talked about in these reviews, where it's like, it's hard to appease like diehard fans and then appease people that are like, I want to see this because it's actually a really good movie, or I've heard it's a really good movie, right?
Yeah.
Stephanie, is there anything that you saw as a fan that was missing that you feel like could have been added, or anything like that?
I know the thing, like, like some of the storylines, or, they didn't like, finish, like for the most part. I think, but overall, like, I thought for like, this movie that was to come out like, 2 years ago, it was, did it pretty like, I think a good job, at least, like, like you said, your friend opening them up to like, to maybe like watching, actually watching the TV show, and, like, seeing what this is, what's it all about and stuff. So like, I really enjoy it. And I know, like, the musical numbers can be kind of like, divisive, I think, but I mean, they put out, 2 soundtracks full of music of songs. So, so I could see, but I do think like some of the some of the songs almost blended into each other. Like the Sid had the same melody. I think if I think that could be the case, because it sounded like, some of the songs almost sounded the same. Like maybe like just if it's like kind of like the opening song and then like Carnival song. Parts of it to me sound the same, but overall, it was pretty good. And I did like the song with the villain, his song. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I feel like overall, I feel like this film, at least for me, did it for what it tried to accomplish. I feel like there could have been more, absolutely, as a fan. But I feel like people that came in, because there were kids in my theater watching this when I like went this earlier today, and they were cracking up the whole time. And I was like, okay, like this is a film that families can see, that everybody else can see, where it's like, yeah, it introduces things like death and like murder and like weird things like that, but kids understand that to the point where it's like, it's not like incomprehensible. Like it happens, which is terrible to say, but like it happens, but it's also in a way where it's like, oh, like it's kind of funny, like in this way. And so I feel like, it did what it needed to do. It did satisfy certain crowds. It did, give the fans kind of what they needed, but also could have done more, in a sense of like, there's been this history, right? There's been like 11 seasons where like there's been all this build up, right? And then you did this where it's like, it's a little bit more simplistic. Like if this movie came out like 5th season, it would have been fine. But now that it's like in the 11th season, they're like, there should have probably been more. There should have probably been more of reference to a lot of other things that this family has gone through. So, yeah. Any last minute thoughts? Any last minute things about this movie? Should people go see it? Should they not?
For me, it's a go see it, just because I want to support the show and I want to support animation anytime. I it sucks when you see big production companies like Netflix go, well, we're going to trim our animation section because we had a profit loss. We consider animation worth losing, when that's the only reason I subscribe to Netflix. So it's like, go and support these movies, so that we can get more of them. Do I think it was like the must-see movie of the year? Do I think it was like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that, and you don't have any idea until you see the movie? No, but I enjoyed it and I laughed the whole time. Our whole theater, which was a range of different people, were laughing nonstop, and there was this camaraderie in the moments, like the teeth moment, or like the random moments with the quips and stuff like that, where we're all laughing together. So I definitely think it's worth the experience. Do it again. It's not going to change your life. You're not going to go out and be like, I need a Bob's Burgers tattoo right now after that movie. But it's worth the watch, I think.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Stephanie?
It's definitely a watch. For me, and like for other people to go see it. They there's a support animation. I think, and also too, it was like number 3 movie in the country. I mean, comparison to Top Gun, but it did really well, and I think that shows there is an audience for it, and I think it's just there's a lot of there's stuff for the parents to understand, older adults, and stuff for the kids to understand. It's very much multi-age type of movie for everyone to watch, a family film.
Yeah,
family film with a twist, with a little darkness in it, though.
Yeah, I feel like I would definitely recommend this. I would say, if you're not a Bob's Burgers fan, I would recommend this if you have go and support, period. Like, if you want to see this during a regular movie time or a matinee or whatever, go and support this film, period. Because I do agree with Jeromy. There's 2 little animation films that get released, especially in theaters, where you can actually pay money to go see them and support them and do all that stuff. Most of it is on streaming platforms and stuff that comes out. And I feel like this one was it was very fortunate for this kind of stuff, especially not being Disney or DreamWorks, to be released, and then to absolutely be able to go and support a film like this, where they developed this fan base and they developed all of this support, right? And so I would say, please go and watch this movie. Please support your animators. Please support anybody in the entertainment industry that has given their blood, sweat, and tears to putting their effort towards a film like this, because these people started from nothing. They started from scratch, and then they built up all the money, and they built up all this support and resources for themselves. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great, minus the fact that I haven't talked about how I was getting distracted by this couple that was next to me trying to be sexy the entire time in the theater. And it was really distracting. So I had to we had to remove ourselves and then go to the back seat. And I don't know if whatever.
Well, in their defense, this is a very erotic film. I don't know if you remember the scene with the sexy zombies on a horseback.
Yeah.
But I had to adjust in my seat. I was like, whoa, this is getting intense.
Personally, I feel like putting a burger together is the sexiest shit I've ever seen.
Oh yeah. If you can cook for me,
cheese,
done.
Ooh.
Done.
Double patty. Ooh.
He's like, I put an egg on it. I was like, Bob, stop. Stop.
You put what?
You put an egg
on it?
Oh my God.
Mayonnaise? Ooh, you got me.
Talk burger to me.
It has been amazing to talk to both of you, and it's been such an amazing time getting to know both of you through Bob's Burgers, but also just being on the show. You all have been amazing. Where can we find you on the socials? Let's start with Stephanie. Where can we find you with your amazing Bob's Burgers, like things in the background?
Oh, my personal Instagram account is Thrift Nerd, but I actually have a Bob's Burger account called it's called Tina Apocalypse. I host the Bob's Burgers meetups at WonderCon and Comic Con. So yeah.
Oh my god, I'm jealous. Okay, I'm gonna follow you so I can just do that.
Yes.
So
I think I'm planning to do a meetup with another Bob's Burgers account at Comic Con, so we gotta get that underway. So yeah.
Well, now that I'm not in fucking school, I'll go because I've never been to Comic Con ever. So that's what's gonna happen. Awesome. And then Jeromy, where can we find you? What's going on with you?
So I'm Jeromy TV on all social platforms, including Twitch. I do stream on Twitch. I put a few of my emotes in the chat so people could see them and see my name. But I stream on Twitch a couple nights a week, and I also I host voice acting stuff. This weekend I will be at Anime Riverside. I'll be hosting an intro to voice acting panel, and the next day I'll be doing a video game voice acting panel, as well as hosting the Jujutsu Kaisen panel if you're an anime fan. And I will be on Unnecessary Debates, which is a debate show where we argue about nerdy things. And I don't know how a better way to explain that, but last time I argued about the best date you could have with Henry Cavill. So it's very it's very fun to watch. Spoiler alert, this is what I said the best date with Henry Cavill would be like. Is it starts with breakfast in bed and it ends with breakfast in bed, and that's the ideal date with Henry Cavill.
I love it.
So there's fun stuff like that happening this weekend, and I also work at Heavy Metal Publishing as the marketing and sales director. So anything I said here is not to be held to the company.
So you're just everywhere. That's all you needed to say. That's
nerd stuff. I'll be at San Diego. I will be at Anime Riverside, and then New York Comic Con. All of them coming up.
Absolutely, that sounds awesome. We need to talk about voiceover stuff because people have told me for my entire life that I should get involved in voiceover, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. Nah, I'm gonna do it. Now that I'm done with shit, I need to find another hobby. So,
Well, I'll be hosting a panel this week. If you want a preview, I start the panel the same way every time, and I've done 100 of these or so. And people always ask, what do I need to be a voice actor? And this is across the board. Every voice actor will tell you this, and a lot of professionals. Rob Paulson actually tweeted it this week, where it's like voice acting requires acting. You can't if it's great that you can do a voice, but that's only half the job. It is a job. So if you can do a voice but you can't act, you can't do the job, because the acting is the real part of the job. Like, it's great that you can do that voice, but can you cry in that voice? Can you be sad in that voice? Can you be angry in that voice? Can you be happy in that voice? Acting is the core thing that they will ask you at any audition. They will look at your acting experience. At any agency, they're going to look at your acting experience. That's the first step. It's acting. Take classes, learn to act, learn to perform. Even if you're not comfortable on stage or on camera, you need to be comfortable portraying that character in that range of emotions. So that's how I start every single panel, because I know that's the first question everybody has, and every panelist I've ever had will tell you the same thing. Acting.
Yeah. First of all, don't yell at me. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, that's great. I'm so glad you shared that. Awesome. I definitely look forward to either chiming in or looking at one of your, little things. You can reach me at City of Stars. I'm on Instagram, City of Stars. There. I'm on TikTok at Jordyn Orozco is here. I'm not really active on it because I've been busy with shit for 2 years, but now I'm probably going to be really active on it, sharing some wonderful things. But it's been awesome. It's been amazing. Y'all have been great. So I would like to say that's all the time that we have to talk about Bob's Burgers. It's been a bite of a time out of the burger for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to join us on Discord to keep the conversation going. Shout out to my guests, Stephanie and Jeromy. You all are great. Thank you. You all are
Thank you for
awesome.
having us.
Yes, no, absolutely. Please come back. We would love if you would join us for any
Food
other,
and movies anytime.
Yeah.
absolutely. Any other nerdisms you have, please join us. If you Nom Watch review and basic binges are now in podcast form. If you missed this, you got it on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, as well as here on Twitch. All our platforms are at Nom Talk Network. Thank you, Stephanie, our producer. You're awesome. Thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for putting up my drunk ass all the time. And I love you. You're awesome. We love you. Thank you for producing tonight's stream. As always, we give our hats off to you. And we give all of our burger points to you. Tune in next time to our next show, which is going to be Basic Binges, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 3 tomorrow night. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. Don't just watch it. Anyway, so until then, I'm your host, Jordyn Orozco, and you have a nomorific day. Good night. Goodbye.